Rule, ooh. And you know what it is, the big homie from the Meadows. Put it on the top shelf. Step to the left. From the ground up. You know what's up. I believe when we left off, I was talking about being in a hole, stabbed up, all bad. Well, after a continuation of, like I said, going in and out of seeing them eye doctors, I I guess the warden, after we was back there about 9 months, 10 months, you know, she decided to give us a time cut, meaning she let a bunch of us out. Um, Before that happened though, I said Dan Loke from Donna and the boy Monster from East Coast, they clicked up, formed a little Crip Alliance, Vegas and the Cali Crip Alliance, and it was crushed. And I don't mean that, you know, like they didn't put up no resistance. It was not just Monster and Dan Loke, but it was Egypt from GQ, and it was also One Way from White Street. You know, it was a bunch of them. And I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, when the Gershons and the Bloods that was on that yard, you know, they was already still mad about the initial incident with me, Leonard, getting stabbed up. And, you know, some more Bloods had came up there by the end. Grim from Paru, you know what I mean? It was a Boosie B from Playboys came to the yard. um, it was a lot of people, even Mad Meech from 60s, Mo D, Chuck O, uh, they came to the yard eventually. But before this, the Bloods, and this one, Killer Kev from West Coast Bloods, and Boo, you know, they took off on Said Mac from Rolling 60s. When he was on the stage lifting weights, he was doing shoulder military presses, and Killer Kev hit him so hard they said, "Listen, I wasn't there, but he even said it. He said all he was doing was military presses, and he said Killer Kev hit him so hard that the dumbbells were just basically still in the air, and he was way over there somewhere, and the dumbbell just fell, boom, and they just started smashing the Crips, you know. And even on the weight pile, people had bench bars and weight belts and all. They smashed it, man. And One Way got his dope cut. You know, they did him bad. Somebody busted him on top of the head, one of them big weight belt buckles. They did him bad, man. And I'm gonna be honest with you, who got it the worst was Toothpick. And I don't say this to disrespect nobody, but this really happened, and it happened on my daddy. When when they went to get Toothpick, Toothpick had a push broom, and you know the push brooms is where we sweep the dorm with everybody. They know I'm not lying. He had a push broom, and he was with some cats that left him. You know what I mean? They ran when them Bloods came up in there, and he couldn't get out. And once he swung that push broom about 2, 3 times, they rushed that boy, man, and he couldn't do nothing but curl up in a ball on the bed. And they beat the brakes off of him. But that ain't all. A certain individual, and I ain't gonna even go there, but the broom thing, that was cold. And I'm gonna just say it like that. That was cold because he came back there, you know, after he got out the infirmary where we was with a cold limp. But the broom thing was foul. You know what I'm saying? I don't even condone that. That right there was a little bit too far for me, and I was a youngster then. So when that happened, that kind of like blew me off. I never know. I knew that the violence would reach them type of limits, even after being stabbed. I didn't think people would do something to a person like that, man. But little did I know, you know, I had a long journey ahead of me, man, and that was just the beginning. But the way they did the Crips and the Cali Crips and the Vegas Crips, after that, it kind of like solidified an alliance up in NNCC to ask. They said no Crips can hit this yard, and everybody know I'm not lying. NNCC was a yard that if you was a Crip, you wasn't hitting that yard. The only ones that was hitting that yard was 60s. And Mad Meech, Mo D, like I say, Chuck O and all them, they was on the yard. Lanad, Roro, Who else from 60? Romeo. It was a few rolling 60s on that yard. You know, the 60s claim they stand alone. They claim criminalistics. They wasn't with no alliances. If it wasn't 60 or rolling, they wasn't with it. So they didn't get with that Crip alliance that they formed. You know, it was just, you know, so the 60s was cool. You know, and in fact, the Blood stabbed Dan Loke in front of the 60s. They cornered Frank Nitti from West Coast Blood, cornered Dan Loke in front of Unit 3 when they kicked it off, and they stabbed Dan Loke in the stomach in front of the 60s and in front of his brother Don 1. He was screaming Don 1 name when Frank Nitti was stabbing him. You know, but it wasn't nothing Don 1 could do. It was 1,000 Bloods out there. And when the police got to shooting, they was finna kill Frank Nitti because he had those knives taped to his hands. And everybody remember that. He couldn't throw the knives down. They were taped. This is a true story, man. So that whole yard, I got aired out. And the only thing on the yard was Gersons, Bloods, and 60s. And you had the Reno cats who were acting at the time like they were with the Blood Alliance. They were some opportunistic motherfuckers. And that was Baby J then. I'm not talking bad about my family, Gary and all them, but, you know, to take Cali side like that, first, you know, you supposed to be Reno, then one minute you Oakland, you Cooley, you 415, next minute you Sacramento. You know, I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? I don't get it. You Reno, dude. You Reno, Nevada. You ain't from the Yay area. You Reno, dude. I wouldn't want to claim Reno neither, but you still Reno. But let them tell it. They Garden Blocks and Oak Park and everything. They not. You is Reno, Nevada, Reno. Y'all had probably one casino. For real. It ain't nothing up there but snow and handcuffs. Ain't nobody trying to even go over there. But anyway, the alliance between the G's and the Gerson and the Bloods solidified after that. The 60s watch it happen. And they had this thing, you know, if you was a Crip, they used to get you. They used to hang out, Lil Bread, them used to hang out when the fish, see, up north, the fish tank is in NNCC. Down south, the fish tank was in Indian Springs. So if you came to prison through Reno, you came through NNCC fish tank. And at this time, the fish tank was in Unit 7, which is different from the yard because it had actual rooms other than Unit 5. Unit 5 was the hole at this time. Now, when people came out the fish tank, they was, I guess some was oblivious to what was going on to the yards or the politics or whatnot. So if you was from California and you happen to be a Crip that fell through Reno or something, or even if you came through another yard and you just caught the wrong train to the wrong yard, they had this thing, man, where they ask you, man, where you from? And they be like, you know, if you say Cali or I'm from woo woo woo, and you tell them the wrong thing, they be like, hey, your homeboys up over here. Let me, and if you stupid and you walk with them, they always take you through Unit 4-way, the back, because that's the only real like blind spot where the towers can't see. It's right on C wing of Unit 4. It's a blind spot. It's a blind spot right there, and it's a blind spot on the back of Unit 3. That's why they closed that yard off like that. Because it had two blind spots that we used to take advantage of. And it was one by Unit 3 and it was one by Unit 4. And if you was coming out of the fish tank, they normally got you by Unit 4. And if you was from California, they did you so bad. They act like they was walking you to your homie just to get you out of the range from the tower. And once they did that, they'd be lucky if you lived, because they did you bad. And they did this until Central started complaining, because it was so many people getting rolled up and beat up that was trying to come to NNCC yard that the warden basically threatened to send everybody on that yard in different directions if they didn't cut it out. So they had to let Crips come to that yard. And that's when Lil Boo from Donna Street came up there. Everybody remember that when he came up there. Because I wanted to get his ass. And he was following Meechie around. Man, Meech from 60s. He was following Meech like Meech shot out to the point to where Meech said, nigga, these niggas don't want you. Quit following me. For real. And we didn't want him because we could have got him. And there wasn't nothing Meech them could do. We was too strong. I remember when Meech got into it with the Bloods over the phones. And the Bloods surrounded him and the 60s. But Meechie ain't no punk. Meechie didn't back down. Meechie went and told my homie Gangsta Rob, hey, just don't let nothing happen to my little homeboy. I'm going to take care of my motherfucking business. Excuse my French, I don't like cussing. And I'm going to stop cussing too. But he told Gangsta Rob, just make sure don't nothing happen to my homeboys. I'm going to take care of my business. They used to say, what's happening? He said these, you know, I ain't going to say the word he said, but he said, you know, they out here tripping. And they got him effed up. You know, that's Mad Meech. Mad Meech don't bar none. And Mad Meech was full of that water on the yard. He was full of that water, and he wasn't playing. And Baby J them, you know, he called himself being a mouthpiece for the Bloods, and you know, he wasn't them Reno Bloods, and you know, we wasn't feeling them too much no way. So when Gangsta heard that they was tripping, Gangsta was like, oh, hold on, man, you ain't even gotta do nothing, Meech. Hold on, no. Gangsta Rob went over there and checked, and I'm not lying, he checked it out of Baby J them, and that's when Black, Jody Mack them little cousin. Y'all remember Country Black? Got the big old scar on his chest. Remember him? Black. Used to claim the neighborhood, but from Alabama somewhat. But that's when Black stole on the Reno boy Rob in front of Unit 1. See, it was so much conflict on that yard because people were searching for identities. And there was one foreman. It was called Biscuits and Gravy. Bloods and Gerson. Wasn't nobody else in the state of Nevada in alliance. All the Cali boys that left their yard went to Ely. Big Dan, that Seaweed had the issue with a NSP from Inglewood family that I talked about in my previous episode. They all went to Ely. And when they went to Ely, Big Dan formed what was known as Golden Circle. Golden Circle became a California elite organization. Because it consists of some brutal you know what I mean? Big Dan, player from Rolling 60s, big player, a reputable Rolling 60, from California. You seen him on Cad-Mac videos, player, that boy reputable. I did 20 years with him. That's Clem P family. Jewel from Rolling 40s, Diamond Slim, She-Wack, Tiny Boy, Capone, Tone, it was a bunch of them. It was a bunch of them cats up there, man. I couldn't even name them. It's a bunch of them, but they formed Golden Circle. Now, Ricky Cooper and the Bloods, you know, they didn't have no alliance with the Gersons up there. They never did. They know nothing of an alliance with the Gersons. You know, they formed what was known as Untouchables. And the Untouchables is an elite, you know, blood gang, you know, and it's some from Vegas and some from Cali, but they Untouchables. And it started really with the heads of every blood gang, you know, except the Hood. The Hood isn't up under Untouchable. They was at first, but they broke away, and I'm not getting into that. That's their story. They tell it the way they tell it. You know, but Untouchables consist of people like, you know, Slick Rick, Horsehead, Tenderoni, Fat Dad, Hercules, Heavy D, Easy Money, Big Ass Samoan Samoya, Shaka Zulu, Pretty Tony, I think Chad Man, Untouchable, K-Lay, Untouchable. There's a bunch of Untouchables. You know what I'm saying? They even got Cali Untouchables like Bam, he from Bloodstone Village. You know what I mean? They got Untouchables from everywhere, you know what I'm saying? So they started an elite organization up there. You know, but on NNCC yard was something that was unordinary. It was Bloods and Gersons. And we formed a stronghold. And what ended up happening is the alliance left from NNCC yard and it went to Indian Springs in 1995. When I went down to Indian Springs in 1995, my whole mental concept was Gersons and Bloods. But when I went to Southern Desert Correctional Center at that time, there was no Gerson and Blood alliance. The Gersons was basically on their own, you know, and it wasn't a lot of us like it was up north. I was used to us being deep. And this yard right here was the yard I started off on, and I didn't like it because somebody dropped a kite on me. And when I hit that yard again, it was tension once again. But one thing I noticed that I really didn't get into, when I was in NNCC, that I should have, and maybe I will when I go back over, was I didn't know, and I'm not going to get into that the homosexuality thing, man, a lot of dudes was caught up so much into that, they didn't have time to gangbang. But when I came down there, I realized that people wasn't just tripping over gang stuff. Dudes was actually tripping over other men. So when I went down to Indian Springs, it was being sent from one wide open yard to another one. It was just of different culture. One was all white COs in Carson City with a certain type of feel, snow, cold, you know what I mean? But when I went to Indian Springs, it was the desert, rugged, black COs, you know what I mean, with weave and pork rinds, and it was a CO that used to eat popcorn out of a trash bag. For real. What's her name? Miss Sweeney. The one the Blood Boy, D-Boy married, used to be with Miss Porter, Shelly Porter, my homeboy Sonny baby mama. They worked at Indian Springs. So it was in the ghetto. Doom, 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 doom. We had candles. We had camcorders. We had dog man hair. They was walking around with rollers in their hair and robes down there, man. That's how wide open it was. Them dudes had bodybuilding contests. And the counselors was they voted. That's how wide open it was. People came from the street to play the teams in basketball. You know, Kwanzaa, let me say something, because they don't even do it no more. But Kwanzaa, listen, you know what I learned about Kwanzaa in Indian Springs? Kwanzaa was one of the, it's gone now, I can speak on this. Kwanzaa was one of the biggest drug smuggling operations they had going. And I hate to say it, that they would use that something of our culture to smuggle that much mother dope in prison. For real. Because, dude, they can bring you food in Kwanzaa. And they brought it to the gym. Whole cakes, ribs, whatever. They can bring it. In the middle of them cakes, the whole inside be gone. Be about 2 zips. You know what I'm saying? And under that aluminum foil, under them ribs, you already know. And the inmates got to take the food to their room. Of what they people bought. I swear to God, ask anybody. Kwanzaa was one, and you know Kwanzaa is for 7 days, right? It's for 7 days. Man, every day is a different principle in Kwanzaa, but in SDC, every different day a different type of dope drug came up in the joint. Better believe that. Better believe that. This one we used to be able to send our TVs out to get fixed. It was so relaxed up in the penitentiary. I am not lying. It was so relaxed. female COs was getting knocked. My homeboy Bo Fletcher, Raul, knocked Miss George, took her from what's the CO Triggs. Y'all remember Triggs? Raul, Triggs was married to CO Miss George, and Raul Green Eyes at Clam Gerson. He ended up knocking Miss George, and she ended up divorcing Triggs. And she ended up quitting her job at Gene Nevada. She was a CO, and she got out, and she ended up marrying Raul while he was still locked up. True story. Ask anybody. It goes down over there, and them dudes be ready to stab and kill each other over COs. Y'all remember how y'all used to pay? Y'all used to go buy Miss Porter suckers from the coffee shop just to sit at the bubble and watch her eat them, cause she had them lips. Remember that? Y'all used to go buy a bag full of suckers and take them to the CO broad and just sit there like this and watch her eat them. Now everybody around the bubble watching her eat the suckers. Y'all remember that? Indian Springs was wide open, wasn't it? We used to do our thing. We stayed out to 8 something at night till it was dark, till we started busting people in the head with rocks and robbing them. Yeah, because the coffee shop, y'all remember that? It used to crack down there. They had a boxing ring outside, man. It used to crack, man. Indian Springs, it was not no control. We wasn't in prison, man. We had everything we want. James Allen had a crock pot in his room. A crock pot. Flap had a red and black, what was that, Atlanta jersey? That wasn't prison, man. That was not prison. We was doing the unthinkable, man, up in there. For real. And, you know, all good things come to an end, as you will find out. When I went down to Indian Springs, you know, it was guys on that yard, like Lump, Stacy McElmo, Lucky from BTDs, June Brooks from BTDs, Cal Folks, Alonzo Woods, P Baby from GQs, Dada from GQs, Squeaky, little short Squeaky from GQs. I think he was on the yard. It was so many. Quando from Paru, Sweet Pea from Paru, Gugu from Playboys. You know what I mean? Yogi from GQs, Danny McCoy. Man, there was so many people on that yard. It wasn't even funny, man. And you know, it was bound to happen. You know, turmoil. And we used to play football, flag football, but with everything, you know, we know how to tweak. So even though we playing flag football, we still know how to hit you from the back and, you know, play dirty. And when I came down there, it was already tension. I stayed down the hallway with Dada and Lace Dog, so we mugging each other every day. You know what I'm saying? And it was just bound to happen. You know, it was just too much tension, and plus everybody, you know, the North was rocking together, sort of like. And I guess that was the first signs of the Northern Alliance coming together. You know, but there was no signs of Gersons and Bloods on Indian Springs at that time coming together. But as you can see, as time goes along, you will see how what started at NNCC slowly seeped to NNCC Yard. And when I come back, we gonna talk about the infamous football game that got me stabbed the second time while I was still rehabilitating from being stabbed in the eye. Ain't that about it? This is why I say, when you listen to me, don't listen to me and enjoy what I say, because I'm not saying this to make this seem cool. I'm the only ones willing that was in this game that's validated, that's really giving y'all true history, not to glorify this, but to show you that there, as there was a way of tearing it apart, there's a way of putting it back together. And I'm telling you how we tore it apart. And when I get through doing that, I'm gonna tell you how we can put it back together. I know where the pieces go. I was one of the ones that tore it apart. Who would you want to listen to? Somebody that come from the streets, or somebody that went to an academy to learn about the streets? Who you gonna listen to? Take it from me, man. Ain't nothing cool about what I've been through and what you're about to hear. But if it ain't said, you'll never know. The kids will never know, and they'll never grow. So what I'm doing, man, you ain't gotta like me. I don't care about your feelings. What I do care about is what's happening to us as a people and to the young little black boys and Hispanic boys. To clean up this mess, man, we're gonna have to look in the mirror. And to do that, you're gonna have to accept what you've done. You're gonna have to accept how you look at it. You're gonna have to accept that. And once you accept it, even how putrid and ugly it might be, you're gonna have to look at it and accept it, and then find out ways to fix it. If you don't do that, you're just standing there for nothing. Until then, from the ground up.